Good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, April 8th, 2020, and this is the latest edition of the Core podcast series. I'm joined again by Jerry Powers, this time remotely. Welcome, Jerry.
Thanks, Adrian. This is the first time we've attempted a remote video pre-cap, but I think it's worth the effort given the importance of the meeting tomorrow.
And we received notice that the town was going to hold a special meeting tomorrow, which is Thursday, April 9th. And this meeting is unlike other meetings in that they are going to consider a very important question.
This is the most important milestone that I can think of in all of the efforts that CORE has done. Everything we've done is kind of built up to this. At our previous legacy church meetings, we got direction in no uncertain terms from the hundreds of people that joined us live and the hundreds of people that were participating through social media that the town was off the rails and something needed to be done. So in order to meet our goals of an open and transparent democracy again in Edgewood, one of the remedies for that was, and tools, was this special election that we have petitioned the town to hold. Now it has a legal effect, as you know, that it is triggered a special election. The town is now trying to come up with another option other than the legal one, which is to hold the election in August, the special election by mail-in ballot.
And just by way of background, this is the petition that we prepared to change the town form of government from the current mayor-council model to the commission-manager model. The key differences being that we would have 5 commissioners who are based on 5 districted areas of the town of Edgewood who would now represent the citizens in lieu of the current model we have where you have town councilors who are elected at large with a mayor who in this instance is able to control the town agenda and the direction of town government, whereas under the other model, the commission manager model, the town will be run day to day by a professional manager who's qualified by education and experience.
And the power would be spread out equally among all 5 commissioners instead of the way it is now. The mayor pretty much runs the show. He sets the agenda. He determines what's even going to be discussed in a meeting. So our people at the meetings felt as though, and it was expressed, that there was too much concentration of power and it invited an abuse of power, which is what has happened, it appears. And the feeling was that the power had been centralized so much that it could be abused, and we could waste millions of dollars on residential sewer, which is a complete departure from what it was. It doesn't serve the town, and the town doesn't want it. So that's one example, and then the EPCOR takeover is the other. So the remedy was to do this special election. So now, tomorrow, they're going to vote on 2 options. Their attorney comes up with 2 options. As you've said, there's really only one legally in the statute, and that is to hold election in August. And that's what we want to see because, number one, there's no reason not to. And there are many reasons to do it. The reasons to do it is it's required by law. Another reason to do it is that it will preserve the timelines in the statute so that the representative democracy happens. The other is that with today's situation with coronavirus, this mail-in ballot election, which would happen in August, is the best resolution because there's all these stories in the media now about how democracy is being upended because people don't want to go to the polls and vote in person and risk exposure to coronavirus, nor should they have to. So when this option is a mail-in ballot election that happens in August, the one in November, they're trying to postpone it to November, would be face-to-face.
Now, some of the timelines, just to inform our audience, is that we got a petition that was approved as to form by the town clerk back in March. We presented that petition at our public forum at Legacy Church on March 12th, and we were able to get some additional signatures after that period of time. Under the state law, you have to have 15% of the signatures for the amount of people who voted in the last mayoral election. In this case, that number was 77, and we well exceeded that number. The clerk for the town certified the petition as having the requisite number of signatures on April 1st. Under the law, the town is supposed to call for an election ordinance within 10 days of April 1st. So they're holding this meeting now on April 9th, which is proper within the timelines as required. But what was a wrinkle to us that we did not discover until the town posted its agenda packet was that they're considering holding the election at a time that's later than what the statute requires.
Right, and that's the problem, is that just like justice delayed is justice denied, democracy delayed is democracy denied, and the people in our group and that have attended our meetings have expressed outrage that their vote was stolen from them because the councilors and the mayor extended their term from 4 years to almost 6 years by the stroke of a pen without holding an election. They could have shortened that term a couple of months, would have held the election in November. They wanted to sync it up with the November election, which is fine, but they could have shortened their term November 2019. This is how we have a checks and balances from the voters. If you don't like what's happening, you can put somebody else into office that will do what you want, do what makes sense. So now, by postponing again, people are already outraged that they've had their vote taken from them. This is going to be another example of gaming the system in some way for no discernible benefit. Now, the town, I've heard rumors that the town is arguing that it will cost money to do this, whereas in November, it still costs money, but it's paid by the state or the county. So the argument, I called the county and asked them, how much is this going to cost? So they have lots of experience with this. They said about $2.45 a voter. So the town spends $4 million a year. They have wasted millions of dollars on some of these efforts and initiatives for like sewer and the takeover of EPCOR that nobody wants. So to argue that, you're going to spend $2.45 a voter or about $9,000 on a special election that will protect our democracy by letting people vote from home in a mail-in ballot and will protect their health, that argument would be ludicrous to make that it's somehow too expensive.
No, I absolutely agree. And I think one of the core problems that we see with this proposed resolution that's part of the town's agenda packet for this election is that, as you mentioned, the town opted into the Local Election Act in December of 2018 to align their elections with regular statewide elections, as opposed to municipal election day, which would have been the first Tuesday in March. So when we had our meeting at Legacy Church, we were informing the audience that you've been robbed of your right to vote, which you should have had right now. As a consequence, we brought this petition to change the form of government, and it also has some additional benefits that we won't necessarily get into detail in this moment. But the purpose of the petition was to restore this fundamental right to the citizenry of Edgewood. And now what it appears is that the town, through some shenanigans, for lack of a better term, is going to concoct some sort of theory that will allow them to hold this election in November instead of in August. And if they hold the election in August as they're supposed to do, then we could move to this model beginning in November.
Right. And if they don't do this, if they postpone it to November, it's going to require a legal challenge, which their theory about saving money by not spending it on a mail-in ballot election, it goes out the window because they'll have to defend another challenge. And it's not like there's an option even. We have to launch the challenge to protect the democracy in Edgewood. That's what we've been after all along. So if they don't do this, if they postpone it, there'll be a legal challenge. There'll be lots of expenses. There'll be huge outrage from the public who's already upset at the fact that they lost their right to vote for another year and a half or 2 years of the term. And you have to ask yourself, how much is it worth if their only argument that we've heard so far is that it costs $9,000 or $2.45 a voter? How much is it worth for the goodwill to restore the goodwill of the citizenry and the faith in their local elections, the faith in their local government? And how much is it worth when compared to the sacrifices that our predecessors, our ancestors, our families made in blood? We had that recent Heart Memorial, which is all about that. It's honoring the people that have given their lives for these democratic principles. And here we are asking that they hold an election at $2.45. Then is it worth to protect the citizenry from coronavirus by being able to mail in a ballot? I mean, seems like a bargain when you look at it that way.
No, I certainly agree. I mean, we had a public meeting a couple of months back where Sabina Price stood up before the council during public comment, and she said the town does not want the EPCOR takeover to proceed. And one of the councilors said, well, be sure that I will consider all of the information that's necessary before I make a decision. And she said, we told you we don't want it. What more do you need to know? As we move to this instance, the town, the townspeople have signed this petition in large numbers to say, this is something that we want. We want a change in the form of government. And if the town refuses to comply with that request, it shows a complete disdain for the will of the people and for the public good.
That's right. And there is one clear solution that everybody apparently can agree on. The town has put the option to do the right thing on the agenda, which is to hold the special election, the mail-in ballot, in August per the statute. There's no controversy there. There's no reason, no good reason for the town to vote to postpone it. So we'll see what they do. But the whole idea is we're asking the people that are watching this video to call in and talk to the swing voters or potential swing voters, which is John Abrams and Councilor John Abrams and Councilor Linda Holle. We are putting their phone numbers and emails up, and it's also in an email blast that we sent out, that they can call them and ask them to do the right thing. There's no good reason not to, especially with the coronavirus thing going around. If people don't even want to leave their houses and are forced to sometimes, or having groceries dropped in, so they don't have to, why would they, risk going out to the polls in November when they could do a mail-in ballot now, comply with the timelines, and avoid a lot of expensive litigation and conflict?
Sure. And one of the things that we're always closely monitoring is sleight of hand and bait and switch. And one of the things that we noticed as we reviewed the agenda is that while the town considers holding this election at two different times, so they've got two separate agenda items, it's very interesting that the option for delay is the one that's presented first. And obviously it only takes a majority of the governing body to carry an issue. And if they in fact vote to hold the election in November, they'll never get to that second agenda item to consider holding the election at the appropriate time, which is in August of this year.
That's a good point. Why wouldn't they just have one agenda item to discuss the time of the election, whether to hold it here or there, so they could discuss all of the pros and cons together in the same item?
Yeah, it
seems a little. It seems like a little bit of sliding.
It does. And certainly that's why we're putting out notice to the public so that they can be aware of the issues. Obviously, we are always trying to discover the things that the town is doing in the dark. And we are in a dark period right now, not because of town misconduct, but because of a public health crisis. But nevertheless, this is one of the most important issues that I'm aware of that has ever come before the town government. And it's being conducted at a time where the public is not able to attend in person. And the meeting, so far as we know, is essentially going to be virtual. So it's very, very important for everybody who's listening, for everybody who's watching, to submit your comments to the town in writing or to call in on the phone to the town meeting to make a public comment. If you go to the town's website and you go to the document center, you'll find a tab for meeting agendas. And in that link, there's a copy of the agenda packet, which we will publish as part of this video to make it easily accessible for you. But it provides the call-in information, and we'll post that on the video as well, so that everybody has the ability to access the meeting, to hear the discussion, and to participate if you're willing and able.
Yeah, good point. And once again, we've said all along, it will take all of us to accomplish this transformation in the government to an open, responsible, and responsive government that people are actually listened to, and the will of the people gets done, not the will of some hierarchical person above us. So, it takes everybody. We ask that you go to our website, and also we're going to post the phone numbers and emails here. Please, please call John Abrams and Linda Holle. Ask them to do the right thing. It's the right thing health-wise. It's the right thing for the health of our democracy. And it's the right thing according to the law.
And part of the reason that we've identified these two swing counselors, these two swing votes in particular, is because we know that Councilor Sherry Abraham and Councilor Audrey Jaramillo already support this petition because they in fact signed it.
Exactly. So please, it only takes a little bit from all of us to make this change, but it does take all of us to do it. So please call your counselors, Abrams and Holle. And if you'd like and you want to, please call in tomorrow at 2 o'clock, Thursday the 9th at 2 o'clock on the number. We'll post that up here on the video as well. So you can call in tomorrow and participate live for any of those that can. For those that can't, please call your counselors and lobby them to vote for the right decision here.
This is Adrian Terry and Jerry Powers bringing you another important update on behalf of Citizens for an Open and Responsible Edgewood, and bringing you perhaps the most important news in local town government ever. Thank you for watching.